And now we'll finish up today's topics with the e-commerce parts. So this is a play a bit on one of the slides that you've seen before. And what it does is it kind of shows the problem that exists today. So if you look at most retailers today, most retailers have a brick and mortar presence as well as an online presence. It'd actually be hard to find retailers, especially that play in our space, that don't have an online presence. The problem is this, is that it's two completely separate systems. We see it time and time again that they're two separate systems with lots of integration work that needs to happen in between. And basically that's the problem that we set out to solve. Which brings us to the slide that you've seen many times, which again, if we just recap really quickly about the centrally managed aspect of things. So from an omni-channel perspective, everything's managed within the back office regardless of what the channel is on the other side or regardless of what the client is on the other side. And in this particular topic, we're going to focus on the web piece. We'll also bring in the brick and mortar store as we talk about some omni-channel workflows that we've enabled. So being able to do buy online, pick up in store would be an example there. So we'll be able to show how that works within my demo environment here today. A little bit of a process flow to explain a bit how this works as we're bringing in and we're talking about some additional pieces than we had before. But basically on the left-hand side, you've got your retailer using the headquarters piece built on AX, Dynamics for Retail. And on the other side, you've got the online consumer. So they're shopping at home through your e-commerce storefront. So what powers that in between is built on SharePoint 2013 with the Commerce CRT or the Commerce Runtime that we've talked about before. So for the online storefront, if you think of SharePoint as being the platform that it's built on, and then the CRT as the engine that runs it, is what I'm about to show you today, and we'll talk about in a lot more detail. From the processes that happen, you can see that the worker, the retailer from the headquarters, can publish out product catalog information. So from within AX, the same products that they're using, the same products that they're defining, the same products that they're enriching for their brick and mortar stores are the same products that are going to be available on their online store. So as they create a product, as they enrich a product, as they assort products, it doesn't matter what that channel is. It can be your brick and mortar store, it can be your e-commerce store. And when we talked about retail server, that also consumes that same centrally managed data. So obviously the online consumer interacts with the website, they browse for products, they compare products, ultimately and they end up purchasing products. That sales order comes back into Dynamics AX. So this is another very key point. So a sales order is a sales order to us. So whether it's someone in a call center in AX entering a sales order, whether it's a sales order that came from an online store, or whether it's a sales order that originated from the point of sale in the brick and mortar store, they're all just a sales order. Again, there's not an integration that happens. We don't need to then recreate a sales order from one system to the next. It's the same sales order, and we'll be able to see that within the demo again today. And then obviously, since AX is in an ERP solution with warehouse capabilities and fulfillment capabilities, then that can be fulfilled out of any of the warehouses or distribution centers within AX. And then we'll also talk about being able to fulfill that out of a store as well. A little bit of a different take on that components piece that we talked about before. On the left-hand side are pieces that you've seen over and over again, and this is AX for Retail, which is the back office, its headquarters. The orange and the purple boxes are the Commerce Data Exchange, so that's what moves the data back and forth. So you can see the pattern here, whether it's the brick and mortar point of sale, whether it's the retail server, or whether it's the e-commerce piece. It's all the same system using all the same components. In this case, the one that we worked on to deliver for this release are the components for the e-commerce solution, which are the Commerce Runtime, and then the SharePoint connectors and the services that live within SharePoint 2013. With every release, we identify, again, kind of what the key scenarios are that we want to address. what the key investments are that we're going to make. So from an e-commerce perspective, we'll just kind of walk through at a high level the investments that we make to solve the problems that we identified. So a lot of these, again, will be recap from what we talked about before, but channel management. So to us, an online channel and a brick-and-mortar channel are just channels. So we want to be able to manage all of those from within one system and manage them all centrally, and that's no different for e-commerce. Catalog management. So when we talk about products being available in one channel or the other, we use assortments to define that, and that assortment is the same whether it's an online channel or whether it's a brick-and-mortar channel. Catalogs is another piece that we've brought into this release, which allow you to enrich products for a given channel. And I mentioned this in the session earlier, but the same product being sold in different channels may have different presentation, basically. So you may have different enrichment for your website as you do for your phone, as you do for your brick and mortar, or not. They could all be the same. So basically, a catalog allows you to do that. You can target the enrichment. You can target the merchandising of that product for a given channel, for a given form factor, for a given time period. So you can have multiple catalogs across different time periods as well. So that same product could have different enrichment, say, for the spring catalog as it does for the summer catalog. Same product available in the same channel, maybe even the same price, but you want to enrich it differently. Maybe you're going to change the description or you're going to change the images to reflect the current season or something like that. That can all be done through catalogs, and that can all be done through a staged and approval process before it actually makes its way out onto the live site. Merchandising across all channels. So when we talk about enriching the products, when we talk about pricing and promotions, discounts, that's the same for all of our channels. When I talked about the discounts today, setting up a discount for a brick and mortar store, it's the same as setting up a discount for the online store. And order fulfillment goes to the fact that orders are orders. So all orders, wherever they come from, can be fulfilled through AX. Cross-channel fulfillment is where we're talking about buying online and picking up in the store. So that's becoming more and more common, and there's many retailers that want to be able to do that, and their systems just don't do it today, or it's very expensive for them to do those integrations to be able to do that. Ours does it out of the box. It's one system. It's one set of data. They all use the same components. So a sales order created here, there's absolutely no reason why you wouldn't be able to fulfill it over here. Omnichannel loyalty was another area that we felt was important. So we want to have as much functional parity as possible between our different channels. And so a user with a loyalty card in a store should be able to collect and redeem points as much as that user should be able to do that on their website as well. Device alignment. So we know that different form factors are out there, and seemingly new ones every day, with different screen sizes, different resolutions, mobility being what it is. So we want to make sure that we can handle all of those different form factors and all of those different display mechanisms, basically, all through one system. So whether that's your phone, your mobile site, to a desktop client, or anything in between. And then again, in-store customer orders. Basically, the fact that these are all cross-channel, and so whether it's from a fulfillment perspective or from an origin perspective, we should be able to do that for in-store customer orders as well. This is a set of services that we've built for this release. And when we talk about services, what this is very similar to the point-of-sale model, and we'll talk about this when we do the developer session at the end of the day tomorrow. But we create, in each of our components, they all kind of have a kernel, and then they have kind of satellite assemblies or services or plugins, which allow them to be customized. And so in this case, from CRT, specifically for e-commerce, we built pricing, sales tax, and shipping services to calculate the current price based on your trade agreements, based on your discounts, your promotions that you have set up, as well as which sales tax to apply in that sales tax calculation, and then for shipping services as well. So which products can be shipped by which carriers, and some overly simplified shipping schedules to be able to determine that price. Quantity and store availability. So we've built store locator capabilities. We've built the ability for quantity availability to be checked from the online store to make sure that that can be fulfilled from the store. And then obviously the shopping cart services. So if you think about SharePoint as being the platform, the retail team comes in and builds the retail-specific functionality on top of that. And for an e-commerce store, shopping cart is pretty central to that. From a concepts and architecture perspective, very, very key to this solution is the fact that these are search-driven experiences. So if you think of all of the different inputs that could come in to an ultimate presentation across whatever your front end is, in this case, this is showing kind of 3 different examples of what front ends could look like from a SharePoint implementation. All of this information, whether it's authored content, it could be third-party content, your digital assets like images and videos, the catalogs that are maintained and published out of AX and into SharePoint. All of that information is fed into SharePoint through its search and through its indexing to be able to generate what that final dynamic content is on the other side. So again, making changes to those pages comes from all of these different sources on the top, and then through search, as the page is rendered, it's all dynamically pulled together. So an example of that is our managed navigation. We talked about the category hierarchies in AX. So I can create product hierarchies in AX. I can create as many of them as I'd like. In this case, I would create one to be a navigation hierarchy for my website. So that same data that's created in AX is pushed out into SharePoint. It's then consumed in a web part on SharePoint. And then when the user clicks on a category, a search is performed on that to dynamically generate that content. So as new products are published out to through the catalog to the website, they're automatically going to be included in this because it's search-based, and that indexing and that crawling happens within SharePoint continuously. And then it's finally rendered onto the site. It also gives us faceted navigation, which are the refiners that happen. And these are all, again, these are all search-based, and they're based off of the attributes that are defined and populated within AX. So again, if I did a search for laptops, or I clicked on a laptop category, that could possibly return hundreds, if not thousands, of results. So now allowing the user to be able to refine that search based on faceted navigation is something that comes out of the box, and it comes from attributes that are defined within AX. So if I wanted to change this, these refiners, I don't have to go into SharePoint, and I don't have to write any code to do that. That's just data that's managed within AX and published out to the site. So in this case, you can see that you can obviously refine based on price, brand, screen size, memory, any of the different factors that are going to apply. And it's specific to the products that are being refined. So obviously, a number of megapixels wouldn't apply to a set of speakers or something like that. So it's intelligent in that it knows that these are the attributes that apply to this set of products. Adaptive experiences also come from SharePoint, and which is basically the ability to understand the user's experience, the user's actions, their navigation, what they've clicked on, and be able to respond to that and dynamically change the content that they're seeing based on that. So if we know that you've clicked on these certain devices, or products, I mean, then the search-based content can take that into consideration when suggesting other products to you or leading you along to products that you might be interested in. And again, that comes from SharePoint being able to do that. When we talk about the device channels, now this is the capability of being able to support multiple form factors. So the same content, again, being able to be consumed by different form factors. So again, managed centrally, pushed out to SharePoint, and now the ability for us to recognize the device specifically, or maybe it's just its resolution, and being able to render that properly based on what that device is. It could even be a native app as well. So a little bit deeper into the Commerce Runtime. My slide got a little bit smushed to show the T on a separate line there. But basically, this is again showing that that commerce runtime, or that same set of business rules, is deployed throughout all of the different components so that you get a consistent experience throughout each of them. And so I'll go into the demo now. I'll probably have to reconfigure my display. Branding would be different, some theming would be different, but functionally this is an out-of-the-box storefront. So this is everything that you get. Now obviously through extensibility, through those services that we talked about, this can be extended. It can be customized to meet individual retailers' needs, but from an out-of-the-box storefront perspective, you'll see everything that you'll be able to get from this. So the search-based navigation across the top, these are those categories, those same very categories that we defined within AX. If I actually switch over into AX and I go into that channel, this is one of my online stores now. So you can see I can actually manage more than one through AX. I actually have 3 different online channels, one for each of my businesses: electronics, sporting goods, apparel. They can all be managed from one place. And you can see that in this case, this channel has a navigation hierarchy that's been associated with it. If I look at that hierarchy, you'll see that it's the exact same information that you'll see across the top of that website. So if I needed to make a change to that hierarchy, I can change that here within AX. And then when that data is published out to SharePoint, then those changes are reflected. I don't need to write any code to change the navigation of that website. I'll drill down through a subcategory. And this should show all of the products within the digital SLR camera section, or not?
Hey, Jeff,
yes,
quick,
certainly.
Could you show us, you mentioned speakers have different criteria than a camera. Megapixels don't apply to speakers.
Yep.
Can you just give us an example of inside AX how the camera variants or attributes?
I will definitely do that, yes. Okay. Yep, it's on my list. Yep. So here's where the search was performed, a bit slow that time, but basically a search was performed to show all of the products within that subcategory. The faceted navigation, or the refiners, are automatically generated based on the attributes that have been defined for these products. So you can see you can filter this out by brand. If I only wanted to see the litware cameras, then that's going to do a quick filter there. If I only wanted to see cameras that are black, most of those are black, so that's not a great example, then obviously that filter would work. The pricing, so I can narrow down the list of cameras I want to see based on their price. In this case, they're cameras, so we talk about image resolution. You can talk about the interfaces that they have, the file image formats that they have. So each of these is going to narrow down that list of products that are available. So when we talk about a particular product and its enrichment, which that faceted navigation comes from, we can look at it first on the website. So this would be its big, long, extended description, as well as a set of features. All of this is data that comes out of AX. Its specifications are not hooked up for this product. Its specifications are also attributes that come out of AX. I'll show you that on the back end. So that is done from within AX by setting up attribute groups. So it's actually under Product Information Management, and we can talk about attributes and attribute groups. So actually it's kind of a tiered setup. So you can set up different types of attributes, and then those types are used to create individual attributes, and then those attributes are grouped into attribute groups, which can then be assigned to products at the category level. But it's easiest just to look at this from a group perspective rather than going into the different steps there. And if I look at my SLR cameras here, you can see I've created a group of attributes that are going to be applied to products within this category. And these are those types that I talked about. So whether it's text, it's integer, Boolean, you can define your own types for each of the attributes, and then those attributes are placed into a group. So what this means is I can take this attribute group, I can assign it to a category, and then any product within that group is going to automatically have these attributes. And you can see that by going back to that category hierarchy. Wrong one, sorry. If I look at my electronics products, you can see that you have the ability to specify not only product properties, but you can set up attributes and attribute groups here as well. So actually, this is probably set up on a different category hierarchy, but if I wanted to set this up here, I would select this and then choose the SLL cameras. Then that gets associated to any of the products that are within this category. Yeah, so actually it's all additive. So I actually navigated to the wrong category hierarchy there because we have some duplication of data, but you can have the same attribute in more than one group. You can have more than one group on a given category, and a product can be in more than one category. So we add all of those things up. So it could grab some attributes because it's a camera. It could grab some attributes because it's sold online. It could grab some attributes because it's from the spring 2013 collection or something like that. So it basically takes all of the attributes based on all of that categorization to make its overall list of category attributes. So I just want to show how those same attributes are used specifically for a channel. So if I go into my online store here, and look at the mapping of those attributes, you can look at it again from the same hierarchy. And now you can see how you can determine how these are going to be used on the online storefront. So whether this attribute is searchable or not, whether you can sort based on that attribute, and then the important one is whether it can be refined or not. So by specifying an attribute as being refinable, it's going to generate that faceted navigation for you. And this can all be different per channel. So depending on what your front end is, so in this case it's our out-of-box SharePoint site. If it's a different front end, then obviously there's going to be different capabilities that are there. So it's very channel specific. Then that actual enrichment happens within the context of a catalog. So if I go into my electronics catalog, you can see that same hierarchy here. I'll drill down into my cameras. And now these are actually the individual products listings that are generated for products that are within this category. And we've got some interesting Chinese or some characters I'm not familiar with there. And if I look here, you can see how those attributes are applied for this particular product in this particular catalog. So it can actually get pretty complex, but only to show the amount of flexibility that's there. So in a very simple situation, it's the same products with the same attributes with the same enrichment across all channels. But we know that that's not always the case. So in the design, we have to build it flexible enough that this product can be available in a different category for a different channel and have completely different enrichment. So it's flexible enough to handle something like that, but it's actually very simple when you think of it being the same attributes in most situations. Another way to look at these is probably easier in the list view, but this is this product's enrichment in the context of this catalog. So this catalog then can go through an approval process. So we use workflow within AX, which basically allows you to say, have one person create the catalog, and another person has to approve that catalog before it can be published. And that's all user definable also without having to write code. Whether you use workflow or not, how many steps you have to go through, how many people need to approve it, who can approve it, who can't approve it, just takes advantage of the workflow capabilities within AX to go through that process. Once it's approved and validated, then it can be published out into AX, or out into SharePoint. So that would be that information there. So if I want to go through and actually complete a sale, we'll talk again about some of the stuff that the retail team did for the SharePoint online storefront. As I add things to cart, you can see that there's some retail-specific web parts that were generated or that were created by our team, and basically the ability to add to cart, the quick cart that you see, and then the overall cart are web parts that we've added in this release. So you can add products to your cart and get a little indicator of what's in there. I can go and check out. You can check out if you're a known user or returning user. You can log in and check out, and that ties back to a customer within AX. I'm just going to check out as a guest. And now I can choose my shipping information. So in this case, I can choose, depending on which products it is, how it can be shipped, where I want to have it shipped to, and I could also choose to do an in-store pickup. Here it is. Okay, so in this case, I want to ship items to me. You can see the drop down here is going to also allow me to pick up items in store. We'll go through that flow as well. Actually, if I was purchasing more than one product, you can actually do split. So for each line, you can choose some to be picked up here, some to be picked up there, some to be shipped to this address, and some to be shipped to that address. In this case, I'm just going to create an order that I'd like to be shipped to me. Based on my address and the products that I'm purchasing, we can tell you what shipping methods are available. So we have shipping methods rules defined. So basically, some products maybe you can't ship air. So if you're going to buy a refrigerator or something like that, you're not going to ship that air overnight. Maybe that's only available ground. Or based on where it's being shipped to, those rules will come into play. Now that I choose that it's going to be ground, I can go through and complete the rest, and I'll just have to put some real information in here. This part won't be real. And I can complete and submit this order. So what happens here is very much like a point-of-sale transaction, is that on the SharePoint side, in the CRT database, this order is saved into that database right away, just like a sales transaction happens at the point of sale. And then Commerce Data Exchange takes those orders and moves them from that database into AX. So typically that would be done on a schedule. In this case, whoops, wrong one. In this case, I'll just show what that would be done if you were to do that manually. And this gives an opportunity to talk about the distribution schedule. So this is the piece that actually determines how and when that data is moved between the different channels. So as you can see, we have different types of job for moving out different master data or different configuration data. So each of these jobs can be set up with a different recurrence pattern. So if I want my discounts to go out maybe every hour or every couple hours or something like that, I can set up a different recurrence pattern for each of these different types of data. In this case, I want this to be data that I'm pulling in. So I would use that job that's going to pull the sales transactions from my online channel, and I'm just going to run it now rather than waiting for the next scheduled job to pull that in. That information then comes into the AX database. We filter the transactions from online transactions to store transactions, but really they're all going into the same table. We just provide two different views on that. These would be the sales transactions that I've done while I've been playing around with this since we've been in here. Those transactions come into AX and then are converted into sales orders in AX, and that's also done by a batch job. So this is, again, something else that would be running every couple minutes. Creating those orders that are coming into actual sales orders within AX. So now that I've done that, I can go and look at my sales orders. I can look at all of my open sales orders, and I can see the sales orders that I've created. So this is the digital camera that I created. And at this point, it's now just a sales order within AX. So it would be no different than if I just sat right here and created a new sales order. So a sales order is a sales order regardless of its origin. So from here, I could actually pick and pack and ship and completely fulfill this order. If I go back to my online store again, and my internet connection is, nice. What I wanted to show is order online and pick up in store. I can actually kind of fake it, but I lost my internet connection. We need an internet connection when we get to the point of doing the store locator, and it's actually a shame that I won't be able to show you that now. But basically, when you get to the point of checking out and choosing that you want to pick that up in the store, we have an out-of-the-box integration into Bing Maps, which will then find the closest store to your location that has that product in stock, and then you can choose which store you want to pick that up. In this case, I don't have an internet connection, so it's trying to get there, and it's not going to be available. But I actually was having problems with that earlier. Actually, just let me double check. Pick up items in store. And yeah, the Bing Maps aren't going to be able to come up. Just give it a quick check there. Yeah. So anyway, you would see a Bing Map there with my stores plotted out on it, and then I could choose which stores that I wanted to pick that up in. In this case, my store that is an electronics store is a CONTOSO store. So if I switch over into the point of sale for CONTOSO, you'll see we have a different visual look to it. Obviously, it's electronics products rather than the sporting goods products that you saw earlier today. This is a new capability in this release also, in that you can now completely theme the point of sale. So you've always had complete control over which UI elements are in the point of sale and where they are and how big they are, what buttons could do and all of that. You could do some branding, but now you can completely theme it. And out of the box, we ship it with 6 themes. So this is the dark theme. We have a light theme, green, blue, whatnot. But you can actually create your own themes. So you could completely custom style this to your retailer's branding needs. But this just shows the electronics store slightly different than the sporting goods store. So now if I want to be able to recall that order to fulfill it from the store, I can go into my customer orders and recall the order. Now here you can find it based on any number of information. So if they're a known customer, you can search by their name. If they know their order number, then that always helps. In this case, I used my email address when I was playing with this earlier, so I can find the order that way as well. This will just basically come back with any of the orders that can be fulfilled for this particular customer. And this is another call where we use the Commerce Data Exchange to go back into AX to get that information. Because we know orders can be coming in from multiple sources, and with AX as that central point, we know that this is always where we can go to get the latest information. So you can see I've tried this more than a few times, and that it actually did work 3 times today when my internet connection was working. So I'll actually go ahead and choose to pick up this order now. We'll now bring that order back down into the point of sale, where I can then do some pickup options. And I know on a projector the contrast isn't great. It actually looks much better on my screen with the dark theme here. But this is basically showing me that I have 1 ordered and how many that I can pick up. You can do partial pickups. So if only some of the quantity available is available now, you can do a partial pickup now and recall that order again and pick it up at a later time. In this case, I'm going to choose to pick up all of the items. Now this is basically just saying that no deposit has been applied. So this is configuration settings that we have here. But in this case, I've actually paid for that order when I placed it. So now this order comes back into the point of sale, and this can be completed just as if it was a regular cash and carry transaction or a sales order that's being originated at the store. Yes, actually, so that completes the demo. So if we have any questions, we can open it up for some Q&A. Actually, so what we've done, so we didn't build any. I mean, all of the data's there and integration points are there. We didn't build that out of the box, at least not yet. What we do have is AX's ability to be able to send notifications. So as an order moves through certain steps, from the order being received to the order being picked to the order being shipped, AX has built-in capabilities to do notifications. So emails can be generated based on templates that you define that will go out and do notifications that way. Ultimately, what we would like is to be able to have a customer portal where they can go in, they can track all that information, they can be notified in various ways. But right now, it's basically the email notifications that are already built into AX.
Hey, Jeff.
Yes?
Is this an existing product, the stuff on SharePoint? Or is
Everything that I've just showed you just shipped in our last release. Michael, I'm bad with dates. When did we ship that?
December.
In December. So we just shipped this in December.
It's all
This is, you can have this today, exactly, yep. So from the store, this is the latest point of sale from that release, which was 2012 R2, and then eCommerce was new in 2012 R2 as well. Yes?
How does it handle destination-based taxes?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, so it handles it basically, we will associate the tax based on what's defined for them based on the rules within AX. So if we were just in the previous session where they talked about all of the various rules about destination-based taxes and being compliant in all of those areas, it's possible here, but it would be a nightmare to do that here. Just to be honest. So we have all of the capabilities to associate a tax and to charge that tax, but to actually be able to pinpoint that tax based on their address, we would probably want to recommend that you use a service. Yep. Yep, so the tax engine to calculate the taxes there, we have some built-in capabilities to determine what that tax is, but it's not going to go down to the level of granularity that was in the previous session. But the extensibility model allows you to do that. So basically the tax is what tax, shipping, even like in point of sale with prices and discounts, these are all services or plugins that you can then modify those, or you can actually replace them. So you could replace our entire tax plugin with a different tax plugin, or you could use our tax plugin and go call out to another service to get the correct tax rate, and then use ours to calculate it the rest of the way. So those are all possibilities through the extensibility model.
So it would rate a sales order with the correct tax groups applied, or calculated based on that?
Yeah, so basically we have some very basic functionality built in to be able to choose the correct tax group. So in all situations, especially the examples that were given in the last session, it would be possible to do here, but I mean, I can't imagine anyone actually doing that without using a third-party service. Yeah. Especially how often all of that data changes. So even if someone were to manually enter all that information in here, it would be an ongoing job for them to do that. So, yes?
Is it possible multi-currency on the web?
Is it possible to do multi-currency on the web? That's actually a very good question. I know that from a regulatory perspective, this hasn't been localized. But from multi-currency perspective, I think I need to double check there. I know that it's basically, again, it's the same business rules, it's the same configuration as the brick and mortar store. What I'm not sure is if our out-of-the-box storefront shows that or not. So whether we've actually enabled that through the front end that we have. From a business rules perspective, I have almost no doubt. Whether or not we've actually surfaced it in the UI, I'm not sure. I'd have to follow up there. Yes?
On e-commerce or store payment methods, where are they stored at to make sure these compliant?
So we have our Dynamics Online payment services available within the US, in which case that's managed that way. Otherwise, again, it would be payments as another service module or another plugin, especially outside the US that we rely on partners and ISVs for. A question over here?
How do you communicate with the shipping carrier?
Yeah, so actually, that is one that we actually did build as a sample or as a proof of concept. We did it I think we did it to FedEx and the U.S. Postal Service. So we didn't ship that, though. It was built as a test client or as a proof of concept. So we have a shipping service that basically just kind of looks into AX right now, where you can define some basic shipping schedules, and that's where we come back out with the shipping charges. If you wanted to get actual shipping costs from carriers, then that would be an integration that would be done by modifying that service module or modifying that plugin. So we have Michael here too, if there's any questions from a licensing perspective or from... I gotta make you work too.
Thank you for that. They're expecting me to jump in with licensing.
And say, usually, I've had some questions offline that I keep telling people they need to talk to Michael, so this is his opportunity here to be able to explain this.
So licensing is actually pretty simple, and we've deliberately licensed this and priced it very aggressively. So what you'll find is for the capabilities it offers, so all of the functionality you saw in the back office, all the management capabilities, everything that's happening within Dynamics retail headquarters, that all comes with the solution. There's no additional charge for that. Obviously, if you needed additional users to run and publish to the website or do some of the work to transfer data, then you would obviously want to license those users, but from an overall module cost, there's not an additional cost for the back-end side. Then on SharePoint, it's really whatever number of SharePoint servers you need to scale out the front-end content management side of things. And they've actually gotten extremely aggressive on their SharePoint server licensing. So now the SharePoint server comes with everything in that one box, including this capability. So it's a very aggressive starting point in terms of price. You get all of the Dynamics piece as part of the solution. So there's really not that much complexity to it. It's how it's licensed. It really depends on how many devices you need to scale out, obviously based on size of customer. Yes?
Training schedule, is that going to be published?
Training schedule as in readiness for?
Yeah, AX,
Yeah, so what we'll do tomorrow during the sessions where we talk about Dynamics RMS Next Gen and things like that is lay out the roadmap for the next 9 to 12 months. So roughly middle of the year, training and readiness that will provide for everybody code that we'd start to get into people's hands from a readiness perspective, and then by end of year, general availability, so that by the time we get to this event next year, Next Gen RMS is in the market, it's launched, and you guys are selling it to thousands and thousands of customers around the world.
Does SharePoint, the website, have any issues running on browsers on any mobile devices?
On mobile devices?
Yeah.
So actually what I've demoed it at NRF was basically the same storefront on the Windows phone. So it has mobile SharePoint client there as well. And that's they call it a device channel. It's a little bit of conflict in terminology there. So SharePoint is able to handle that. It's able to detect it and able to show the correct content there.
Yeah, and the beauty is it's a single URL across any device, so you don't have to create a separate mobile URL simply because you're on a phone or a tablet. So it simplifies, basically it'll know what device it's on, and it'll run the appropriate look and feel based on that.
Does it run on other browsers?
I know our test team has done, I don't know exactly everything that they tested, but I know that they've done a decent matrix of all the different browsers for testing, yes. And I know the SharePoint team has probably done even more than that, so yeah.
Before Christmas, when we spoke in Seattle, somebody raised the question of integrating other third-party system.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, so no, it's a good question. The question was about third-party interfaces. Just like we do with point of sale, we obviously allow integration to other things. We know that that's going to be a way of life. The question was more about the leverage of the commerce runtime and some of those tools. And we've made a conscious decision for now that if you're going to use the commerce runtime and some of that, basically the heart of the engine that you're going to use, you need to use SharePoint for that. Because from a value proposition differentiation standpoint, the commerce runtime is super high value and it's very unique in the marketplace. And as soon as you open that up for anything and everything and anything at all, it changes the nature of people being able to have the same exact or very close to the same level. It takes away from the end-to-end value proposition, but that's something we're continuing to look at. But you can still integrate a third-party website through our APIs and tools. That's not a problem. It's just you won't have that same depth of integration and some of the same functional capability you would with the end-to-end. Any other questions at all?
On checkout, can you do split tendering, like with your credit cards?
I'm almost positive that we didn't build that out in our online storefront. So that would be another kind of example where you could customize that to do that. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's a lot more that can be done with the storefront. So one thing to keep in mind is that this is the out of the box storefront. It's intended to be then customized for each individual retailer. And then you can also think of it as this is our V1 of this, and obviously there's a lot more that we can do.
Yeah, from a roadmap standpoint, late this year, the Next Gen RMS is the key priority. The clienteling application you saw would also go, and then we'll make enhancements. The V2 of this, the V2 of the mobile phone point of sale. So those are some of the top priorities for the next release that's coming later this year. Just in case, I know I touched on it this morning, there are customers who bought this, are in proof of concept, or deploying. We have customers ranging from someone like Mission Linen, about a $400 million retailer down in Santa Barbara, California, to Nestle, that's running a proof of concept at a very large scale. And then other customers of ours like Mattress Firm, a multi-billion-dollar hardware retailer, Wilkinson's in the UK. So the good news is this was just launched, but we're already seeing a lot of interest in the marketplace because it is very unique. It is very different in terms of the technology, but also the level of depth of integration that you get. And I guess one other point to make, everything you're seeing here as it applies to next-gen RMS, this is part of what next-gen RMS will offer in value as well. E-commerce, the mobile POS, all the things that we're talking about from a pure retail standpoint, that's, and we'll get into that more tomorrow, obviously. Any other questions?
All right, thank you very much. Thanks.